play a lot more efficiently, run the football better, but certainly, third downs, red zone, fourth downs, they really control the game in so many ways. And so we didn't get enough shots at it. We didn't get enough opportunities. We got to play obviously a lot better. A lot of this comes down to, the details and the fundamentals of the football game. And so, sometimes it's a simple game and we got to play better and give ourselves more opportunities. And so, when you look at it, we had 40 snaps on offense, probably an all-time low. And then they had 77, so they obviously controlled the ball for much of this game.
Kellen Moore, after the Saints lose 34-10 in LA to the Rams, it's probably the caveat that I have to start with because I've said this literally every game we've talked about with the New Orleans Saints all season. I'm not so much concerned with wins and losses. I didn't think this team would have a lot of wins. I picked them 5-12. I might have overshot the mark. So I'm not really so much concerned or disappointed with the losses. We talked about it for months in the offseason. This is one of, if not the worst roster in the NFL. To anticipate or expect them to win games, to be uber competitive would have been short-sighted. So I said at the beginning, I'm not going to sit here on Mondays and rant and yell and scream about wins and losses because I just didn't expect this team to win games. Situations or circumstances within games we can certainly talk about, like week 1 when Kellen Moore just forgot that he could actually call timeouts against Arizona at the end of the first half, those types of things. And I know that in this situation after a game like that where there's all kinds of awful. Kellen Moore mentioned 40 offensive snaps. The New Orleans Saints possessed the football for 16 minutes and 7 seconds. Just for context, that's the 16 minutes and 7 seconds time of possession is the 13th lowest in NFL history. Not Saints history. In the history of the National Football League, there's only been 12 times in the history of the league that an offense has possessed the football for less time than what the New Orleans Saints did on Sunday against the Rams. So I know there's a lot of people today who are crushing Kellen Moore, the game plan, the play call, the offensive line, the defense for their inability to get off the field, Tyler Shough, all of it. And you're right for all of it. I mean, when you lose like that in the NFL, it is wholesale awful across the board. I mean, just look at whatever metric you want to look at. 30 first downs for the Rams to 10. They ran 77 plays. You ran 40. They put up 438 yards of offense to your 224. We just talked about time of possession. You ran the ball for 57 yards. It is awful. And so the New Orleans Saints are 1-8. This is the worst start in 45 years. The 1980 team, which finished with the worst record, 1-15, had the number 1 overall pick. That team started 0-14 before they finally won a football game. So this is awful in every kind of way. The 40 offensive snaps, that's the second fewest in franchise history. So awful in every way you can imagine. There's just nothing really good to say. 3 straight 3-and-outs to start the game. After you took the football to start the game, you won the toss and elected to receive and promptly went 3-and-out. And then they promptly went on a 12-play, 88-yard drive that ate up 6:43 off the clock and, of course, netted them a touchdown. Listen, the New Orleans Saints defense... I'm talking about Tyler Shough in a second with his first career start, and I'll give you my thoughts on Tyler Shough. The New Orleans Saints defense is awful. You could point to Brandon Staley. You're not wrong. We could point to aging veterans. You're not wrong. You could point to young players who we thought would be better or hoped would be better. You're not wrong. I have continued to bang the drum that Kool-Aid McKinstry is not a number 1 cornerback. It is very obvious. That is disappointing. He draws the assignment of a number 1 every week, and every week he gets dusted, and this team can't actually defend. He had a brutal pass interference. He gave up 2 touchdowns, one to Puka Nacua, where he got toasted on the corner route. He's not a good player. Alontae Taylor, same thing. Costly penalty near the goal line. Also completely lost his eyes, gave up the first touchdown. Jonathan Vilma said on the broadcast that Alontae Taylor is a better player than he's showing near the goal line. No, he's not. We have a large enough sample size to know who is good, who is not. And with Alontae Taylor, it's a multi-year sample size. So I'm not saying Kool-Aid McKinstry will never be a starting caliber player in the NFL. He's just never going to be a number one. And every week in the NFL, you're going to draw somebody's number one. And week in and week out, it doesn't matter if it's Marvin Harrison Jr. or JSN, or if it's Stephon Diggs, or if it's Puka Nacua. It's just, he's going to draw everybody's number one. And every week, he loses way more than he wins. He's not a number one corner. Maybe he's a nickel. Think of it in terms of the offense. You drafted Trevor Penning thinking he was going to be potentially your starting left tackle. That didn't work. You moved him to right tackle. That didn't work. Now he's a guard. And he settled in there. It's not what you thought. He could be a contributing player, but he's just not going to be a number one. So that, for me, is defensively the biggest disappointment here. Because you really hoped, after using 9 draft picks and coming into this season, hoping to see some of the guys that you've invested draft capital in take that step to being cornerstone pieces that you could build around. But the more you look at it, you realize you have 4 first-round picks on your offensive line, and they're not very good. I think Kelvin Banks could end up being your franchise left tackle. I think he could end up being a good player. But when you look at the rest of that offensive line, you ran for 57 yards. Your inability to move bodies and consistently run the ball is atrocious. If I look on the other side of the ball, Brian Brzee continues to be almost non-existent as an interior presence. We just talked about Kool-Aid McKinstry on one side. Alontae Taylor is not a corner. We learned that a year ago when you traded Lattimore and Adebo was hurt and Alontae Taylor had to play boundary corner. He's not a boundary corner. I think he's a safety with poor cover skills. Probably more of a guy that could maybe play center field for you, but I don't like Alontae Taylor at all playing corner or nickel. That's not his strong suit, very clearly. I'm not going to throw dirt on Jonas Sanker. He's starting as a rookie. You thought you would address that in free agency. He's had to start this season as a rookie prior to what you thought. And I think he could still be a good player. You're learning more about guys like Danny Stutzman, if they could replace your veteran aging linebackers. But it's hard to ignore the fact that every week you go out there and your defense stinks. You have played every road game that you have played, you have lost by double digits. You lost at Seattle 44-13. You lost at Buffalo 31-19. You lost at the Bears 26-14, and now you lost at the Rams 34-10. Every time you've gone on the road, you've lost by double digits. Your defense is awful. So I would love to see them invest in the defense in the draft, but they did that this year with Quincy Riley, with Danny Stutzman, with Jonas Sanker, and you're just not good. And so there isn't really a quick fix. The trade deadline's coming up in less than 24 hours from right now, as we're sitting here on this Monday. And so I think that means the Saints have to be total tear-it-down sellers. Anyone that you can get any value for, you do it. But the other part of this, of course, is Tyler Shough. And maybe I'm burying the lead because Shough did make his first career start. And aside from the 2-minute drill, which was really impressive as they went down in less than a minute on the 2-minute drill and scored right before halftime, there just wasn't an awful lot to necessarily hang your hat on. And it's really hard whenever, you take the ball to start the game and you go run, pass, punt, and you go 3 straight 3-and-outs, and you can't protect and you can't run the football, and there's no semblance of balance. How we're going to judge Tyler Shough, I think, has to be the exact same way that we judge Spencer Rattler. It's not necessarily that you're judging him on the wins and losses or the statistics. It's how do you function within the offense, and are you elevating your team? I can't say that I saw anything from Tyler Shough that cost them the game. The interception late was a 4th down play. He had to just heave the football, and it was picked. Happens. But he didn't do anything to elevate the team. Okay, it's his first career start. We'll see more. In the same way that Spencer Rattler got 6 starts a year ago and 8 starts this year, we saw 14 starts for Spencer Rattler. We're going to see the final 9 games of this season. We're going to see Tyler Shough start tomorrow, all barring injury, which hopefully he doesn't. He stays healthy and has an opportunity. And we'll see a growing sample size to see what that looks like. And just like I told you with Rattler losing all 6 games a year ago, I was not pinning that on him at all. They had a practice squad roster. I'm not pinning the record on Rattler. I'm not going to pin a loss like this on Tyler Shough for a bad team. I just need to come through this year to know if you think come April, if you think you can build with either one of these guys, Rattler or Shough, then you're using that top 5 pick, potentially the number 1 overall pick, on a position other than quarterback. Maybe you're getting the best edge rusher in the draft. Maybe you're finally going to get an elite weapon on the outside. Maybe it's a dominant interior defensive lineman. Whatever it may be, but you got to know. And so we're going to look at this sample size as it grows for the remainder of the season to see if Tyler Shough can be that guy. I didn't see anything that tells me definitively he can't or it was awful, but I didn't see anything that says, yeah, he showed flashes to show you he can be the franchise quarterback. You're on the road again next week at Carolina, a little bit less of a test than playing one of the best teams in the NFC with the best defensive front in the NFC. In LA, maybe you see a little more functionality in this offense. But if you can't run the football and have any semblance of balance, and if your offensive skill guys continue to not make plays, I mean, late in the football game, when they went forward on the 4th down, the play before that was a 3rd down where Juwan Johnson had an opportunity to make a catch on the sideline, and he falls down and drops the football. Like, you've got to have guys that can help elevate your offense. That can make a play for your quarterback, and you just don't see it anywhere on this offense right now. You didn't see it for Rattler. You didn't see it on Sunday for Shough. They're just an awful football team. And I don't know that at this point, if you're worried about, is Kellen Moore the guy? Is he a leader of men? Can he culturally fit? The thing that I maybe am hopeful for is looking at Dan Campbell. And you can laugh and roll your eyes and guffaw, and I wouldn't blame you for that. But Dan Campbell's first year in Detroit, they were 3-13-1 back in 2021. I mean, that 2021 Detroit team was an awful football team that got blown out and just had to sort of stomach their way through it. Penei Sewell was a rookie on that team, and you look at some of these scores, man. They lost to Green Bay 35-17. There was a 44-6 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. There was a 38-10 loss to Denver. They lost 51-29 to Seattle. I mean, there were some atrocious losses by the Lions in that first year under Dan Campbell, but they stayed the course and kept building culture and felt like what they were doing was pointing in the right direction. So I don't want to tell you that these losses, even as lopsided as they are, mean you can't overcome them. This is going to be a process of rebuilding not only your roster, but your culture and all of it. And hopefully, as they move throughout the course of this season, they can learn more about their roster to build toward next year. It never wants to be just a consistent wait till next year conversation. But if you came into this year with any idea other than we're learning about guys on this team for the future, then you were short-sighted and misguided on this team, because it was always going to be like this. And Sunday was awful, and I hope there are better days ahead for this New Orleans Saints team. But part of me actually just says I hope they just keep stockpiling L's and puts them in the most advantageous position come April to try to draft future cornerstone pieces. But Sunday, 34-10 at the hands of the Rams. And I mean, if the Rams didn't take the air out of the football in the second half, it could have been much, much worse.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.